What's up, guys? It's your favorite QB coach, and in this analysis, we're going to be analyzing Tiger Woods' golf swing versus Phil Mickelson. Let's go do this thing. Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. If you guys are new to Mike's OG Academy, we do everything that you guys need to know about golf instruction, whether it be golf course vlogs, golf instructional videos, golf instructional interviews, anything that you guys need to know about golf instruction, we do it here. So if you guys haven't already, hit that little red subscribe button down there and you guys are going to be notified every time we drop a video. Alright guys, so let's get into the first part of this analysis. So first things first, we're going to start with rate of closure ideas and basically just release patterns. We're going to start from position 6, look at what their club faces are doing relative to the swing arc, and then see what type of release patterns they have to do because of that. We'll go a little bit into kind of consistency, long-term discussion with that as well. Now once we get past that, we're going to get into setup ideas and see how they differ in setup, and then also kind of how their body moves throughout the downswing. Third, from there, we're going to talk about the match that they just had and how Phil might have gotten him this time, but how I believe that Tiger, over the long run, which he's obviously proven, is going to be a more consistent player than Phil. Cool, so let's get into it. So we're going to take Phil Mickelson to his position 6, which is somewhere right around here, and we're going to start dissecting his club face position, right? So the first arrow I'm going to draw is going to be perpendicular to the ground, right? So it's going to be something like this. Now we're going to use a blue arrow to kind of represent where his club face is positioned relative to that, right? So Phil is something like this. So if we see arrows like this, just means that Phil Mickelson's club face is open to the swing arc relative to where most traditional people would like to see it, right? Now, if we take Tiger Woods into the same position and kind of take a look at where his club face is going to be, we're going to do the same thing, okay? So let me draw an arrow to where... And then we're obviously going to see a little bit of difference between Phil's and Tiger's club face, right? So Tiger's club face at this position is, if anything, a little bit close to the swing arc, which is what I would prefer a lot of players to do. Now the reason because of this is because we're going to see Tiger Woods get a little bit more of a drive and hold release pattern. He's not going to have a lot of late second supination in the golf swing, which is, I would say, is inconsistent because you got to time that every single time, right? And especially when you're swinging really fast, if you have a lot of late second supination, you're going to hit the ball all over the place, right? Which translates us into the next part, which is kind of what Phil does with his release pattern, right? So let's erase these lines. We're going to zoom in a little bit just so we can see. And we're going to take Phil Mickelson down into the golf ball, right? So we can see that his club face is still fairly open at this position. Fairly open, fairly open, fairly open, fairly open, fairly open, fairly open. And then right here is when we're going to start seeing him adding in that late supination move with his right hand, and really start seeing that club face churn over, right? And then as we start getting him into a position 8, we can really see that that right hand is chasing, or excuse me, his left hand is chasing over the right hand, right? Getting kind of that, I just call it almost, you can call it maybe a flip release. I would just say he's excessively churning the toe over through that impact zone. This is obviously a little bit past it, but let's just take a look at his club face and see how churned down it is now, right? So if we're going to do a really good example of this, let's draw a yellow arrow to where his club face is pointing here. And then we're going to go back to his position 6 and see where his club face with the blue arrow was pointing right here, right? So he has churned that over from open to very shut, right? Through basically from the bottom of the swing, from hip high to hip high. So he's getting a lot of flip right there through there. Cool. Now Tiger, let's do the same thing for him. Let's watch how he comes into the golf ball. Now, Tiger Woods' swing was not filmed in slow-mo, so we're not going to see as many frames, but we can still get a great idea of what he's doing. So as he comes into the golf ball, we're going to see the next click, which is right about here. We're going to see a very different release pattern, right? Now, his toe is churned over, but nowhere near as much as Phil, right? So let's go get Phil's again. So Phil's is somewhere like this, right? So Phil's is obviously churned down a lot more than Tiger's has at this point. Cool. So keeping this in mind, Tiger Woods' release pattern would be more of a, I would say, a steadier rate of closure. Now, it's not the most optimal rate of closure for my preference that I've seen. I think Cameron Champ and some other players on tour have a little bit more of an optimal rate of closure release pattern, but I still think it's a lot better than Phil's, right? So that basically sums up the rate of closure ideas just kind of a summary of that, I believe that Tiger Woods has a better release pattern and a more consistent release pattern that over time is obviously going to beat Phil's, which we've obviously seen through his career. You guys should probably stat check me, but I believe that Tiger Woods is just in overall, taking all the ball striking stats into account, I think he is a better ball striker overall than Phil Mickelson is throughout the length of his career. Now, again, fact check me on that, but I also think that Phil is super streaky and has a really good opportunity to be a great ball striker in situations, especially kind of like Ryder Cup ideas. And just really when it's kind of a match play environment, you really see Phil kind of step up to the table. So keeping that all in mind, let's go into the setup changes real quick, and then we're going to get into the match between Phil and Tiger. Cool, so let's take them back to setup, and we're going to see some differences here. Cool, the first thing that I want you guys to see in terms of setup differences is we're going to look at the flexion of the knees at setup. So if I draw an angle on Phil's,
we're going to see that he's somewhere, I can get this just somewhat perfect. He's right around,
it's called about 152 degrees, right? We're going to see Tiger standing a lot more upright than Phil is at this position, and Tiger is going to be right around this 161 degree range, maybe a little bit, give or take a few, right? We obviously haven't drawn these angles on perfectly. But for the sake of the video, it's pretty obvious to tell that Phil is a little bit more in flexion with the knees. Cool. Now, why does this matter? Well, this is definitely a trend I see in terms of differences of ball flight for amateurs. So with amateurs, when I tend to see them have a little bit more of an upright stance, kind of like Tiger's, we're going to see them typically hit more of a draw pattern. Now, that's not an absolute, right? There's nothing really that you can ever call an absolute in golf, but it's definitely a trend that I see. I see a lot of slicers have a little bit more of kind of Phil's setup, right? And what is Phil's big miss that he's always afraid of? Well, the high shot to the left, right? Remember, I think it was Marion or something like that, or Shinnecock, I can't remember. What some U.S. Open back in like 2004 range, Phil lost the U.S. Open, his one like really good chance of winning it because of a big high flare cut to the left with the driver, right? And I would argue that a lot of it has to do with setup ideas and then also how he controls club face throughout the golf swing, which was kind of the last part, talking about how his club face was super open to the swing arc relative to Tiger's, right? So keeping that in mind, let's keep going with this. So from here as well, we're not going to go any more. There's a lot more we could go over with setup, which might be another video in the future, but we don't want to make this analysis too long. So we're just going to talk about body motions on the downswing, okay? So the most important one I want you guys to notice is going to be transition ideas. So as we take Tiger Woods down to, let's call it about left arm parallel, we're going to see that he's going into more of a squat motion, which just means chest is going a little bit more into flexion. Knees have obviously gone a little bit more into flexion. If we take a look at Phil, we're going to see a little bit different of a look at this lead arm parallel. We can see that Phil's knees have gone maybe slightly more into flexion, but we're seeing that his chest is already starting to go into extension. So he's starting to back away from the golf ball. Now, another huge difference that we're going to see between these two players is going to be club shot pitch. So if we look at Phil's club shot pitch is pointing somewhere around there. That's a little bit not accurate. Let me get as best I can. Something like that. Tiger Woods is a little bit more on the flatter side, right? A little bit more shallow than Phil's from here, right? Which allows, I think, Tiger to rotate a little bit more through the golf ball, and it allows him to kind of basically use the body in the way that it should be designed for that club, right? You almost want club shot pitch pretty shallow, just because you're trying to hit it from the inside and you're trying to hit up, right? So the two kind of match up. Cool. Now from here, what we're going to see is Tiger into the golf ball is in a great impact position for driver. We can see that the club head is swinging to the right, but he's also hitting it on the up. So knowing D-plane, I guarantee his path is pretty close to neutral. It looks like he's trying to hit like a little tiny pull cut from this position. So he's probably maybe a little bit on the negative side with his attack angle on this one. And that's going to confuse a lot of you guys out there. Just because his club head is swinging to the right doesn't mean his path is to the right. If you factor in attack angle and he's probably hitting up on it about 3-4 degrees, relative to where his swing direction is, he might be a little bit on the negative side. Which if you see the next click, we can see the golf ball is starting to the left and then cutting back. Cool. So from here, if we get Phil into the same position, we're going to see a little bit difference in basically the axis of the shoulders, right? Phil's shoulders are a little bit more level and a little bit more open. He almost has this posterior pelvic tilt look almost, where his butt is kind of sucked under him, a little bit of that early extension look. And he just looks like he's almost coming over it with the body a little bit. But he's also hitting a little bit more down on the ball than Tiger is as well. He's not hitting as far up, and you can just tell by the way that the tee flies as well. Cool. So basically, in a nutshell, once we start going through the golf ball, we're going to see a little bit of difference between release patterns and the way that they chase after the golf ball. Tiger's exiting this way. Phil, you can see a pretty big gap between these feet, right? He's almost got a little bit more of a slicer spinning out type of look, which I see a lot of this look in slicers that I teach and that we try to get rid of. And also the way his axis of his shoulders are working and everything is very similar to a lot of slicers I see out there. So keeping that in mind, I would say, just based off this glance of an eye, I would say Tiger Woods has the more optimal golf swing. Now, we know optimal golf swing doesn't mean necessarily winning lots of golf tournaments. Now, in this case, it does, obviously, because Tiger Woods has more wins than Phil. But an optimal golf swing does mean that you're probably going to hit the ball better than the next guy who doesn't have the optimal golf swing. So obviously Phil is known for his short game, getting up and down, and being able to just never get out of a hole because of his short game and putting. It leads me to believe that Tiger Woods' golf swing is better, and it's just been proven through stats as well. From here, let's get into the last talk, which is going to be about the match. Why did Phil end up beating Tiger? Well, I didn't watch a lot of the match, so I would love to hear you guys' comments below and let me know exactly kind of what went down. I watched bits and parts. I watched the last 3 or 4 holes where I could see with Tiger Woods, not the 18th hole, I watched the playoff basically. So I watched them teeing off from the putting green, and I watched Tiger Woods hit it over the green twice. And then having to get up and down, I saw Phil hit some better wedge shots, right? Which Phil has been known to. So maybe that's a future video on why. But anyways, even because Phil Mickelson beat him in this match, history tells us that Tiger Woods is the more consistent player. He has more wins. And not even more so that in terms of swings, he probably has better statistics in terms of everything that involves around ball striking for the long run of both of these players' careers. And that's why I think Tiger, if you played 5 rounds, kind of similar format, Tiger is going to beat Phil pretty much every time. Now, not all the time, but I would say if you gave him 5 matches, I think Tiger would probably be the better of Phil a lot more often than Phil would be the better of Tiger, guys. So anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this analysis. I hope you guys found something insightful in here. I think some really good take-home points would be in terms of position 6 and where club face position is for Tiger relative to Phil. I think this is super important for a lot of players to be able to get this club face a little bit more turning down to the ground, kind of like Tiger, so you don't have to have a huge flip at the last second. I think that is obviously more of the modern golf swing, and you're going to see a lot more players. Well, you already do. You see, almost everyone on tour has a little bit more of Tiger's look at this position than Phil's look at the same position, guys. So cool. If you guys haven't already, feel free, smash that like button, leave me a comment, let me know if you guys like these types of videos, and as always, guys, hit that little red subscribe button. All right, guys, best of luck and play some golf out there.